while the economic survey shows a rosy picture of how India is going to perform globally, and it is indeed heartening to note, yes, that we are progressing well, but are we progressing well enough to ensure that our capabilities match the expectations of the people of the country in terms of employability, in terms of job creation, which fulfills the educational parameters of, because we also have a challenge of underskilled laborers. Is it also addressing the manufacturing stagnation that we are facing in the country? Is it also addressing the challenges that we are facing from countries such as US, which are, deploying tariff as a measure to seek obedience, and that has caused a lot of pain to exporters of the country. In terms of rupee performance, it's one of the worst performing currency globally. Well, how are we going to be addressing that? So those are challenges which I feel the economic survey hasn't really looked into and shown a roadmap ahead, which it should be doing. But just talking about GDP numbers vis-a-vis the challenges that we face, I think would be showing an incorrect picture of how India is progressing.
Well, let's see how FM going to apply in his budget, and what's your expectations on union budget? What we can?
My hope is that firstly that it should not be bound by the state elections that are coming, and SOPs or some things are announced, some policies are announced to only serve those particular states which are going into an election, or serving those states which are in alliance with the Bharatiya Janata Party, or comes under that pressure, because we are seeing international headwinds which are creating a problem for our exporters, for our businessmen, for our manufacturing sector. Is something that is important for the budget to ensure that it doesn't fall into those traps. Rupee performance has been globally one of the worst performing currency, while they continue to say, oh, it helps the exporters. But a lot of things that are imported, because we use dollar as a value of trade, as a measure of trade, how does it impact us economically as well as for the cost of product that the consumer ends up buying? Job creation is a big challenge that the country faces, and we are seeing a lot of underemployed people in the country. That is another problem. How are they going to address the tariffs coming from the US? While we have the EU-India FTA deal, which is long overdue, we still do not know much about the US FTA deals, and will India capitulate to the expectations of what Donald Trump is seeking? So keeping all of those in mind, and the global disorder right now, the global disarray right now, we are hoping that it would work in favor of the nation and ensure that the progress, the GDP and the growth, economic growth, is equally across states.
Another important issue regarding the UGC, the Supreme Court has states the UGC 2026 regulations on police challenging definition of caste-based discrimination. So first of all,
I absolutely welcome this particular judgment, simply because the UGC guidelines were highly discriminatory. To address discrimination, they were bringing in some more discrimination on the campuses, and there were 3 points which I have been continued to raise, and that is something even the Supreme Court has validated the concerns that I was expressing with regards to the penalty clause, that if someone files a false case, what do you do with regards to that? In terms of ability for everybody who's on the campus who faces some kind of discrimination should have the ability to be able to go to the committee, the equity committee, to be able to address. Unfortunately, that was not doing that. It was only giving a platform to SC, ST and OBCs to be able to do that, while the general caste students were left out in the cold, and they did not have that particular pathway. Equity squads, through implicit, explicit nature of discrimination, they could take a call. So implicit could mean anything as far as the equity squad is concerned. Would it be through words, through actions, or through some perceptions or preconceived mindset about discrimination? Those were things which I was speaking about. The High Court has the Supreme Court has put a stay on it. I welcome it, and I'm hoping that the Government of India withdraws this particular guideline and ensures that any guideline that comes into place to address discrimination is not discriminatory in its very nature.
And we all raise our voice against dowry, about women empowerment, but still, even in 2026, a horrific death has happened in Delhi. A pregnant Delhi police commando has beaten to death with a dumbbell by the husband, and it is a bit horrifying. And the husband says, the last call to kin is that husband says to record it. He hangs up. Delhi cop says that it's a horrific murder. So
it is so shameful that we live in the 21st century and women continue to be denied equality, and the highly patriarchal nature of the society that we see in some regions of this country has led to this particular crime. as you can see, she is someone who is qualified, who is economic contributor to the nation, to her family, and yet having to face this kind of death is extremely shameful, and also is a reflection of the society that we've become. Instead of moving forward, we are always, every time we take a step forward for women's rights, we move 2 steps backwards when we hear incidents like this. I hope the person who has carried this out, the husband of the victim, gets the strictest punishment, and also sends a message across the length and breadth of this country that no man, and especially as someone who is her, the better half of the woman, should be able to ever take law in their own hands and face a situation like this. It's so unfortunate. I can only express my condolences to the lady's family, and I hope they get tons of strength to fight this cause and ensure justice is done to her.
Ma'am, we are all shocked about Ajit Pawar's death. That's a very horrific death has happened, and the black box is in custody. Central promise for a time-bound probe. At the same time, NCP Minister pitches for Ajit Pawar's wife Netra as Deputy CM on the talk. So, how do you see
what happened with Ajit Pawarji is extremely unfortunate. Man who was committed to the idea of Maharashtra and taking Maharashtra forward. Left too early, and in this untimely and unfortunate circumstances. While the government has promised a time-bound probe, let me remind you that the same agency that provided the aircraft had faced a similar crash. At that point in time, nobody lost their lives, but that particular finding is also still awaited. It's been 3 years since then. The AI-171 air crash, we still don't know what the investigation status is. There was an interim report. There is no final status. It is so unfortunate that just a day before Ajit Pawarji's death, there was a standing committee meeting on how to employ AI tools in DGCA, and I was talking exactly about that. The safety standards of aircrafts, of pilots, etc., should be mapped using AI, and then we hear about this unfortunate death. But DGCA seems to be learning nothing. And DGCA continues to deny its accountability and responsibility as far as this is concerned. By putting out a report by saying, oh, we will do it in a time-bound manner, they haven't defined what is that time-bound manner. Have they given us the timelines? No, they haven't. That is the unfortunate reality of India, that while we have people aspiring to fly, we do not have safety in the skies.
At the same time, India right now is talking about SIR. Lot of irregularities basically in Bihar, Kerala, Tamil Nadu. Our ex-cricketer Julian Goswami, our footballer Mehtab Hussain, lot of people has been right now in this irregularity. So how do you see the SIR process?
It is such a shame that those who brought laurels for India, who brought glory for India, are today being asked that are you an Indian citizen and prove your citizenship. While SIR is an election commission mandate, even the Supreme Court has said so. But at the same time, we have to ensure that it is not something which excludes people. It should ensure that the mechanisms of checking citizenship documents are not warped in any manner to keep people away from their right to vote. That is something that Election Commission hasn't been sensitive to. We have all been raising our voice about this, how it has been discriminatory in its approach, how it has, in a very calculated manner, whether through the Bharatiya Janata Party, very calculated manner, try to keep people of those who are opposed to this idea of having BJP in power are being denied, are being kept out of these electoral records. So there has to be transparency, there has to be an effective checks and balances, there can be no space for discrimination, and can be no space for allowing those who are in positions of power to be able to manipulate the individual citizens' right to vote.
Everyone's favorite Shashi Tharoor is not a favorable person in Congress right now. So how do you see the Shashi Tharoor's things that are happening?
See, Dr. Tharoor has been an accomplished bureaucrat. He has served in various roles globally. And as a member of parliament, he has proved his capability, not by the virtue of what he's doing in the parliament, but also by the virtue of people voting him to power repeatedly in Kerala. And he has effectively managed to transition as a politician. What is happening within his party, I'm sure the party is well aware of it, and the party is quite capable of handling that particular challenge, whether it comes from a place of aspiration or a place of being on the same page. But Congress party has been inclusionary in its approach, and it would take measures to ensure that there is no fallout in a way that would impact the Kerala elections. And Dr. Tharoor has been an Heruvian. I do not see anything that would lead to the curiosity that people have of him jumping parties, etc.
Ma'am, everyone, not only politicians, we all expect respect from our own places, our party. So what if Shashi Tharoor is saying that he's not even getting a basic respect from her party? So how you see that?
So I haven't honestly followed this particular part, but if he isn't, I'm sure then he becomes well within his rights to take a decision which is best suited to serve the people of his constituency, to serve the cause of politics, to serve the cause of parliament, and take a decision that is best suited to his aspirations. Because someone who had left the Congress party, for me, it was always about self-respect and getting that kind of understanding and from the political party, and then having to choose what you have to do. So I do not want to jump the gun or predict anything, but I'm sure things will be worked out between the two.